Shut up, compressor. Hey everyone, I'm Matt with Doogs Models, and this is the Flankoff. Well, now that we've got the exhausts and the radomes installed, it's time to move on to a bunch of little bullshit. I'm going to start with the Kitty Hawk this time out. So first up, we've got this E82 piece, which sits right back here at sort of the back of the canopy. This little doomajiggy here. As you can see, it's got those sort of sprue gates that overlap onto the actual mating surface. So my favorite way to clear these suckers out is just to get nice and flush on there with the 123s. I also got to sand the outer edge just a tiny little bit. I think that should have us, oh, flash. Okay. All right. Let's try this now. That's more like it. Get our extra thin going on. That's all she wrote there. What do we got next? So on the tails, it looks like we've got optional parts here. We can either do these E5 or E5/E6, these little spikes, or E14 and 15, which look like something much different than little spikes. So here are E5 and E6. You can see these little spiked doomajiggies right here. And then 14 and 15 are these things, which A, look like they'll be a lot easier to knock off, and B, I have no idea what the hell they are, and they do not show up on the painting guides. And since we don't really have a lot of great reliable images of the Chinese Su-35s yet, I'm going to stick with 5 and 6. Now there's not really a good way to bring the camera around to capture these, so I'm just going to install them and we'll be right back. Okay, so now that we've got E5 and E6 installed onto the tails, it's time to move on to the Drogue chute boom cap thing, which, as you can see here, annoyingly, Kitty Hawk has provided ways to install it opened, because all the times you see these things opened when they're sitting on the ground. Well, I'm going to see what we can do about installing it closed, considering there's no detail inside there. So it seems kind of bullshit that it would be open in the first place. Of course, there would be flash in the one place it's impossible to get to on this without risking some shit. Okay, so let's see how these guys go together. I guess we're gonna have a little bit of additional cleanup to do. Of course, as you can see right in here, there's some flash that's making this ugly. All right, while we let that set up, we're gonna see what else we can get taken care of here. So we've got C37 and C38 going into these little holes here and here. C37. All right, hope this fits. There's one. Would note that if these are supposed to be scoops, they have... So I'll just note real quick, if C37 and C38 are supposed to be scoops, they're solid up front. Awesome. Guess we'll see how they look when we get around to the Great Wall kit, huh? At least they fit. They have got that going for them. Okay. We'll do a brief, quick test fit of this guy and just see how well or not it fits onto. Stop squirreling around on me, plane. Alright, so it looks like we need to do a little bit of sanding of that seam line there before we can even try to test fit this. So, happy day. It actually fits. Of course, because we're talking about resin and plastic here, we can't use our good old favorites of various styrene welders, so we're going to have to resort to CA. Joy. So I'm putting a little bit on the rear of the boom and a little bit on these arms, the hinge points. And those should be sufficient to hold it in place. Okay, now sitting down on top of this basically is the actuator rod, which you can see right in there with C28 and C60. The only thing is, with the way that this is done, it's very tough to tell how that rod deals when everything is shut. Sigh. Well, it's clear that it's not going to sit in the original spot because the original spot is back here. And I just don't see that reaching anywhere near far enough. Frustrating. You know what? I'm going to pull up a picture of what this thing looks like because I can't. It's just not making any damn sense to me. So it basically looks like, if you look in here, there is a tiny, tiny little rod, and it just sits there, and that's it. So let's get out this other piece. I don't think we're going to be playing with this piece at all. Now we're going to get a little piece of metal and just shove it right there. Call it a day. Okay, so I think like that should work. All right. Let's fix that shit in place. So one thing I discovered recently on the Patriot build is that this sand and gravel glue works really well for PE and other little bullshit things. Has a nice amount of hold and doesn't leave marks. It just melts right in. Yay. That was entirely too much of a pain in the ass for what it is. Now we're going to move on to a bunch of antennas here along the dorsal area. So E58, 56, 13, and so on. Okay. First up, we've got E58. This little thingy here, which has some nice flash on the end of it. So I'd rather not go around sanding all this shit. Let's see if I can. Well, I guess we're gonna have to. All right. Of course, it's going to be a little bit too small. Why wouldn't it be? Okay, there's that one. E56 is one of those where it's how the hell do you get a good grip on it? So I'm just going to trap it in the cutters like this. Close my hand around it. Snip. Just I'm a big fan of having nice thin sanding sticks to play with. Wherever the hell they all went. Alright, so we're just going to come in here. Clean up that edge. Grab it by the fin. And hope that it just fits like this. More or less. Yeah, stay in there, you. All right, and then we've got C13, or sorry, E13, right in front of it. Which, is it just me, or does that look like a really thick antenna? It seems to sit in there pretty well. All right, so we're gonna... Okay, we have got those installed. Now up here around the nose, we've got a few other things here. Can't really see it because of all the shit I've got in the way. But up here on the nose, we've got E1 and E2, and again with the IFR probe. Something I'm curious about with the IFR probe is this E88. Will it fit in here? And if so, maybe we can do a thing where we just trim the fuck out of this and install it the way that God intended. Because I've yet to see a photo of these things sitting on the ground with the probe extended like a jackass. Now this whole thing of opening and extending just random shit, literally just for the sake of doing it, is certainly not exclusive to Kitty Hawk, but they seem to typify it. You know, going all the way back to, I remember on their Jaguar. Now the Jaguar is not really well known for its avionics. In fact, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, kind of shitty avionics were one of its hallmarks. So what do? Open the avionics bay. Why not? And make it a huge big pain in the ass to close it. On this, I have never seen one of these things on the ground with the Drogue chute cover popped open. I've never seen one on the ground with the IFR probe sticking its ass out there like it is on this kit. It just seems silly. So, alright. See if we can get this fucker to fit. Well, that's one way to not do it. This probe also looks hilariously oversized. And of course it's got mold seam on it. We get to remove. Why wouldn't it? So see, this thing is supposed to just fit in here like this, which just looks like ass. I mean, it's distracting and stupid. I'm not doing that. No matter what, I am not doing that. So let's see how it just fits in here. Oh, for the love of God. You are shitting me. It's too big to fit into its own fucking bay. The Mickey Mouse operation is this. Oh yeah. Alright, I'm going to pause here and sand the fuck out of this for a few minutes. So, that was officially a pain in the ass. The IFR probe was too big to fit into its bay. And so I had to cut it off and replace it with some brass tubing. And then jankily glue the door in place. Okay, so more Kitty Hawk frustration. Take a look down here at E1. Okay. So there's a thing that goes into a thing and then sticks out. And if you look over at the opposite E2, it sticks out like that. Okay, that makes sense. Until we look at the actual part. Okay. So none of these parts are square, which is what that hole is. Yeah, I need to think on that. So I figured it out. The basic problem that we've got going on here is that this piece is just all fucked up because there should be essentially a metallic plate right here that is flat and flush to the fuselage, and it's not there. There's just this rectangular hole. And the part itself is no help. So I'm thinking this is one where I'm going to let CA do its job. I'm going to knock the plane all over the place too while I'm at it. Get a little bit of CA over here. Fill it in as best as we can. Stick this little shitburger right into it. And then of course it's going to flop around, which is wonderful. Like so. God, that looks like ass. Let's see if I can kick it back just a little bit here. This part compared to the actual thing also looks gigantically overscale. Now, of course, over on this side, shit is completely different, and we have a much smaller hole for what is essentially the exact same part. Got to love Kitty Hawk. This time around, it's nice and easy just to shove this into a hole. Yeah, compressor, we hear you. And just let that chill for a bit. Bring it forward a tiny little hair. Yeah, so that one works out a little better. That's still a pain in the ass, though. Okay, it looks like it's time to flip this fucker onto its back and do some stuff on the underside. Okay, next we're going to come in here to part E71, which is this teardrop thingy here. If you'll recall, on the Kitty Hawk kit, it has that cool thing where the landing gear sort of hooks into it. That is not at all the case with the Kitty Hawk kit. So we have this C-33 bit, which is this little doomajiggy here. And it's supposed to install into here, and hopefully they give us very poor guidance on which way it is supposed to go. My best guess is something like this. Because if you look on the instructions, once again, they nail it with the detail. Like, okay, so the best that I can glean from looking at these, you know, and going over here and looking at C-34 as well, is they stick more out than down. That's all I got. That's all it's telling me. Because then if I were to come in and install it like this, then it's sticking up, which you can't see because my hand's in the way. Tough shit. So we're just going to go for it because fuck it, I'm running out of patience. And that seems to make sense just from the knowing that the gear struts come up and are kind of supposed to connect to it, sort of. We'll see if they actually do. So that is that. And over here, let's go ahead and knock out C-34 too. Yeah. Shut up, you fucking thing. Get this side going. Okay, I got those guys done. Eesh. So much endless bullshit with this kit. Jesus. Okay, next up we have C-25, which is a little antenna bullshit thing that goes way back here. On the resin, of course. Why wouldn't it? So we've got a little tiny dollop of CA on C-25. And it just gets inserted. And they're like, so, and that CA doesn't even make a fucking dent. Alright, this should work. Like so. Next we get to move up to the landing gear bays. It looks like we've already installed these scoop bits, the E's. You can see right there. So we've still got C70, C30. Let's see how these go. C70. All right. So this one is supposed to fit in there. So now this is supposed to have something to do with E75, which is one of the gear bay doors. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that from the sprue. And we're sure as hell not going to glue it in place right now, but we're at least going to see what's going on here. I want to have a sense of things before I commit that part to glue. Okay, so I guess this is, yeah, this thing doesn't actually do shit. It just kind of sits in here, but it sits in here at just floppy enough of an angle. I think I'm going to use some gator's grip on it instead of something firmer, so that way it has a little bit of give to it. So gator's grip, for those of you who don't know, is a PVA glue that has a nice degree of flexibility to it. So if you, say, have photo etch that's glued onto something standing up and you hit it with your hand, it doesn't go pinging off into nowhere. It just kind of folds flat, and then you can stand it back up again. Yeah, shut the fuck up. All right, C30. Come on, you fucker. All right, once again, I think we're going to have to do a little bit of testing here just to make sure that that's what it should be doing. Okay, let's look at a fun Kitty Hawk fuck up right here. So along this gear bay here, you can see these two notches, which correspond to these hinges on the gear bay door. Fits in right along in there like so. I know it's hard to see through my hand. The other side, what's that? No fucking notches. None. They're just not there. Just straight up not there. Which becomes fun when it comes time to fit the gear door. Because there's no fucking notches. So what the fuck are you supposed to do with that? Jesus Christ. It's a little bit maddening. In terms of what I'm going to do with it, I need to figure out whether or not I want to cut notches or if I want to cut the hinges. That could be a fun one to figure out. Anyway, this guy, the C30, I think I'm just going to leave unglued and nice and precarious, because what the fuck else am I supposed to do here? Swear to fucking God. Little tiny bullshit like this that just absolutely maddens. Alright, so the gear bay thing is complete bullshit. We're going to move on and knock out the last two antennas that go in here, which are E57 and E12. There are also some clear parts that go onto the sides here, but those are going to wait until later. And honestly, they probably won't fit all that well anyway, just knowing this kit. Alright. Alright. E12. That little divot right there. Let's hope it fits. Sweet, it fits. Okay, so overall on the little bullshit stuff, the Kitty Hawk kit is a gigantic pain in the ass. It doesn't have to be, but it is, because that's what it is decided to be, because of a lot of lazy molding and because of a lot of poor instructions that when it gets time to get into the details, just still stays zoomed out. It'd be like me walking you through installing these antennas from way the fuck back here. Like, what use is that? You know, get in close, show what's actually happening, show the detail and the orientation of the parts and all that stuff. So now that we're kind of at this point on the Kitty Hawk, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to the Great Wall kit, and hopefully the Great Wall kit will handle these little detail things with a lot more aplomb.